proposal a number of times to evaluate what the best approach in terms of our model of delivery of healthcare to city and school employees is. And it's come back each and every time that the model that we're currently using in terms of being a self-insured program is in fact the most cost-effective. So, when you're self-insured, you're not negotiating premiums with Blue Cross Blue Shield. What you're doing is managing overall health care cost and determining what the appropriate breakout between the employees and the employer, or in this case, the city and schools, is going to be. So let's, again, I like to give context. So let's give some context to a one-page graph that I think will answer a lot of questions. What's happened in the past 5, 6, 7 years? Healthcare costs, as everybody knows, continue to escalate at rates well in excess of seemingly everything else we do. I think the important thing on that sheet of paper, you can look at it and study it later, and again, there's entire books that deal with that. But I think if you look at 2005 and 6, and you notice on there are employee contributions and there's total healthcare cost. And the total healthcare cost at the bottom is 77.6, the 83.8, that's millions. And the employee contributions are 18.8 and 19.7. I think it's important to note that in 2005-6, the employee portion of healthcare was, and you all do the math, 24.2% of the total healthcare cost. Now that 24.2% is sliced and diced in a variety of ways. It's employees' share of their premium, whether they pay 10%, 15%, whatever they pay. It's deductibles, it's out-of-pocket cost. But when you look at the total cost of providing health care in its entirety, through premiums, and again, premiums are a loosely defined term because we define them through premiums, employee contributions, out-of-pocket cost, deductibles. In 2005-6, the employee portion was 24.2%. Beginning in 2008, when the world got turned upside down with the impacts of the recession, employees went a number of years with no pay increase. One of the things on the school side, I think we all did it on the city side, but I'll speak for schools, is we made a commitment to the school employees that so long as we were not able to provide an increase in your compensation, we would not dictate an increase in the rate of your insurance contribution. So we held the insurance contribution for the employee flat, and you see that on the graph. And we did that by using a healthcare reserve fund that was in place. Well, at some point, you run out of healthcare reserve funds. At another point, costs continue to escalate. And we got to the point in 2012 where that 24.2% had come all the way down to 17.2%. And now we're at the point where we are beginning to escalate rapidly. And you see some of the costs. The 2013 cost was $130 million. The 2014 cost, it's not on the sheet of paper, projected cost because we're not done yet, $138 million. And why are we having this huge discussion now about healthcare? Because the 2015 projected cost, if we don't do anything other than maintain the existing program, will go from $138 million to $151 million. $151 million if we do nothing. So you'll see from 2012 to 2015, 4 short ticks later that are on that sheet, you go from 119 to 151. So the entire healthcare debate that we're having right now has become very focused on the individualized impact. And I respect and understand the individualized impact because everybody's going to view the changes in healthcare through the lens and how it's going to affect their take-home pay. But I do think it's important that we understand the macro view of this particular issue. The proposal that was out there and is out there would bring the employee cost back to 22.8%. So it would still be a lower cost share than the 2005-06 rates, in which, to my knowledge, everybody was happy with. We'd still be lower than that rate, but higher than we are now. And what's happened in the debate, and again, I respect the individualized attention that it receives, is that when you take that and you convert that into options, high deductible plans, premiums, different rates for retirees versus non-retirees, and you go through all of that, everybody looks at their individual piece and says, mine is going up, I don't like that, mine can't go up. Well, if yours isn't going to go up, then look to the person to the left of you, because by yours not going up, you're making theirs go up. So somewhere in this group of 10,000 plus individuals, everybody's looking to their left and right and saying, I don't want mine to go. But if we accept that 22.8% is fair, this is just a matter of how we're balancing this scale. How is this cost going to be spread out? And the folks who are closer to retirement don't want anything to do with high deductible plans, because they're, got a $3,000 deductible. The premiums are low. The folks who are just started working, they love that plan, because they pay a couple dollars a month. They're not going to really use insurance. They haven't been to a doctor in 3 years, and they're willing to roll the dice. And we've seen that nationally as well. The folks who they thought would sign up for nationalized health care plans haven't. The younger folks have stayed away from it. So that's the push and shove going on right now with health care. But I think you need to, my view of this has been, if 22.8% is the appropriate sharing, which is lower than it was in 2005-06 when everyone was happy with the program, then somehow they need to figure out how much they want to push their neighbor, and how we're going to divide that pie up. And that's really been the debate, and the emails we received have really been about, don't do this because this is how it affects me. What about this group and this group and this group and this group? And that's really a really difficult position to be in. That's, I think, a perfect segue to Mr. Dyer, who can really fill you in with how all this is going to flow into a bigger picture. I'm sorry, I was running, but if you have specific questions for me, there you go.
I tell you what we should do is just hold off until that way we make sure.
Yeah, then we can both answer questions together. That wouldn't, wouldn't be a problem at all. And I just want to say it's a pleasure to work with Bill Brunke and the school board. I think, once again, you got to realize that the city of Virginia Beach is the largest in the Commonwealth, and I think we've got something to the tune of 17,400 employees between us. Quite frankly, we're the largest employer in the city. And, that in itself creates some problems. But, once again, rather than focus on the specifics of the budget, because, you have the summaries in front of you, and as Bill said, this budget is pretty much, moving along. There's only one real point of contention, and that's the personal property, increase to fund some of the public safety initiatives that we're hopefully going to be able to hammer out. Maybe find some other things, but otherwise no increase in a lot of the things. But one of the things I'd like to focus on are some of the challenges and some of the things that go into the entire budget process. Let me just say up front, budgets are a blood sport. It's on that way, it's on the federal level, it's on the state level, and certainly true on the local level. And there's a number of drivers that are out there that I just want to make you all aware of that we have to deal with as elected bodies between us and the school board. And one of them, the other contentious one, and people are always asking, and this is the tough one, why is my water bill so up there? And believe me, I'm the poor guy on the city council, and I got to stoke those checks that are pretty hefty too. But the thing is, what we do not do a great job sometimes is explaining to folks why these bills are going up. And I think if you understand the rationale, and I asked my friend Brad Martin, who's a licensed professional engineer, a lot of this is being driven by federal mandates of which we have no control. And so I think it's really important that we understand, and what I'm going to bring forward to you are the challenges. And I'm delighted to share the podium with Bill today. And I told Marlene I would be glad to come back sometime in the future and actually go back into it with you. A number of folks aren't here today because they have commitments in Hampton this afternoon. But you take a look at some of the things that we have to deal with. Take a look at what's going on, the bureaucratic malpractice that's going on in Washington today. We have the Biden government. We have the challenges of health care. When you take a look at what's going on with the military, for instance, we got downsizing in the military. We have 20% of the Navy going to be diverted to the West Coast over the next couple of years. That's going to hit us hard in Hampton Roads, and especially in Virginia Beach. 47% of gross national product of Hampton Roads is directly or indirectly related to the military. Okay, so that's going to wind us in. That's going to be a challenge in the future that we're going to have. And then, then once again, thank God, we got Bill DeSteph in Richmond, but we also have Glenn Davis, and we also have Ron Villanueva, folks that have been on city council and understand, what we're going through, the challenges that we have on the city. And one of the things I'm going to talk about, some of the challenges that we have in horse drivers are the unfunded mandates. And Bill was on both sides of it. He knew what it was like sitting on council, but now he has the catbird view, and hopefully we're going to be able to hammer some out. I got some unfunded mandates that'll probably blow your mind when you hear about the impacts of it, especially in the areas of school. And, once again, one of the problems that we have doing a budget yearly is that, we always have these unpredictable revenue streams. One of the things, I'm sure Bill will tell you, year to year, we don't know what's coming from the state in terms of, they have a, trying to explain the composite index would be like trying to explain the mysteries of life, okay?
I like the composite index.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, from year to year, we're not exactly sure where our revenue streams come from. They're unpredictable. And so it just seems that we go through this budget process, and the way I describe it is like putting duct tape on a hemorrhage. The problem is we're running out of duct tape and we're getting more hemorrhages as we go forward. And so that's why every year it's contentious. We really can't do any real long-term planning. It depends on property taxes. Depends on how well we do at the ocean front during the summer, and all the other things, and the things that come up with health care. As costs rise, I am scared to death what Obamacare is eventually going to have on us. You got the big debate going on right now in Richmond on the health care and everything. If I'm not Bill, I remember Speaker Howell 3 years ago saying that would be a $3 billion unfunded mandate on us if we get Medicaid. Medicaid is a state-funded entity, okay? And the speaker said that would be coming out of public safety and education, okay? And that's, that's the type of thing that we've got to deal with. This is what, some of the challenges that we have. The housing market was always, it was down for a while, hopefully on the rebound. We're having, supposedly in a recovery, but I think when you heard Bill talk about the number of people having to rise on school lunch programs and the homeless kids that we got there, if there's a recovery, I'm not really aware of it, except, what's written in the paper. I don't see. And once again, that creates problems on us too, because guess what? That also drives our need for health and human services up. And we had to add people as part of a state mandate there. As part of our stormwater stuff, we had to add 17 people just to go into compliance. But once again, I'm going to ask Brad to come up in a minute and just give you an overview. Because you have a right to know why you're paying these stormwater fees. I don't like it. Every other month I got to stroke a check between that and HRSD for $250 to $300, okay? And if I'm doing it, I know everybody else is doing it, but at least you have the right to know why that is happening. So, we have the downsizing there, and with the military, Admiral Vernon Clark told me that the goal is to downsize the number of the military, part of which is to go to pilotless aircraft. So they're going to be working on that. And what would that do to Oceanic if they eventually go to that? you know, it's really going to be a very, very tough thing. You know, so once again, we're failing. We have these future challenges coming up. The other thing we got going on in Virginia Beach, we have age going on. People are aging, infrastructure is aging. And I'll tell you what, when you talk about you know, sewer replacement and replenishment, let me tell you what happened to the city of Atlanta. They diverted a lot of money for their sewers to other things, and now they got $1 billion you know, cost that they have to do to replenish. Look what happened in New Orleans. They were given the money to replace those levees, but they diverted the money, and guess, you know, history is what it is. And the thing is, so, you know, the point is we need roads, we need our sewers. And, you know, let's take a look at our road conditions. What happened was a couple of years ago, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, we used to get $36 million in urban road money. You know what it is now? 0. So guess what? Now the city's got to pay it, okay? And so I'm just trying to, you know, give you an appreciation of the strain that, you know, what the economy from the federal and state levels are doing. And that's why I'm grateful that we have 3 former council members there that really appreciate what's going on. You know, but we got to pick up, we got to fix those roads, we got to maintain them. And, you know, from the potholes and everything else, okay? The other problem we have, challenge economically, is that we are a congested cul-de-sac. Okay, take a look at our traffic. You know, I have the heaviest traffic in my district right in front of CBN, 100,000 cars a day from that one little piece of Indian River Road, okay? And how many times do I see 7.5 mile backup at Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel? We don't have a congested, we don't have a destination airport. And then once again, we got transportation problems. So now all of a sudden we got to think, well, what are we going to do about transportation? I can tell you that, you know, by what I call benign neglect of transportation over the years, you know, we have a problem. And I'll tell you what, you know, as a result of that benign neglect, I think, are the tolls that we have on the tunnels right now. That's going to hurt us economically in a tremendous fashion. And the other thing is now to push for light rail and everything. And the debate is how we're going to pay for it, okay? People are going to use it to pay for it. These are things in the future. But the bottom line, roads and transportation are going to be essential to economic development. What we do, we don't know. But we got to do it. We have to have a rational discussion on it. And I'll get a little bit on that a little bit later. And, you know, to basically, people want reform on the state and federal level. But I can tell you from my thing, once again, Bill and John Moss and Brad are at-large councilmen. I am one of the local guys where people come to me and say, Bob, we need roads, we need this, we need rec centers, okay? When I first got on council, I don't know if you remember, at the landfill, I am the landfill baron in this city, okay? And we had a little hurricane, we had a tropical storm Ernesto, and we had a compost factory. And what happened was all the stuff from the leaves went into the stranding pond and formed hydrogen sulfide gas. Bill was intimate and went into those neighborhoods with me where the guy delivering the mail had to wear a surgical mask. And it was bad. Bill helped me get that compost factory shut down. It cost us $1.5 million. The folks in Rosemont Forest had floods. They were built by R.G. Moore years ago. Remember them? They built a 12-foot-and-a-half below floodplain, and they constantly flooded. Every time they had a major storm, and Bill was with me on that too, they had water up to their toilet bowl lids in their house. You know, Bill and the council got a $6.5 million pump station built, okay? Right now, Lynn Haven 11, you know, that was a dotted line on a map since 1978. And we finally got it through, once again with Ron and Bill's help and everything. And once again, what that's going to do is help with public safety in terms of response time. Regrettably, over the last 9 months, I had 2 fires in my district where there were fatalities. And the response time is essential. And so once again, when it comes time for the budget, and basically what happens in our budget process, the manager gives us a budget, we get 2 books about that big, and then it's broken down into that card. And then it really comes down to, when we get down, the budget is really decided, not the night of the vote, but during reconciliation.
And that's when we kind of hammer out what we really need and what's going on. And, you know, a couple years ago, Bill and I, you know, during reconciliation,